going and I can share it.
All right. And I believe we are live.
Okay, cool.
All right. Give me a second. It's telling me we're going to go live.
There we are.
Are we live?
Yeah, let me share this on the shop page.
Okay. Cool. All right.
There we go. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome everybody to our live webinar. And we are so fortunate today to have Mr. John Snell. John is the lead technician at Bob Reeves Mouthpieces. He does valve alignments, he makes mouthpieces, he creates the magic that we all know and love. John, welcome and thank you so much for doing this webinar, man.
Oh, Joe, it's an honor to be here. Thank you. With all the guests, the esteemed guests you've had on this and that are coming up, I mean, it's truly an honor. I mean,
Well,
I'm excited.
well, this I was so glad to get you because and if any of you haven't seen John has a webinar series too. He has Jerry Hay, Eric Marashiro, the Bobby Burns was just on there. Was an amazing webinar. That was a great one. So guys, make sure you go to Bob Reeves Facebook page. You can catch those too.
Yeah.
Those
Well,
are
thanks for
those
the
are
plug.
no, those are great to see, man. And thank you so much for what you're doing for trumpet players. So, John, why don't you tell us first of all your background, because a lot of people don't know that you're actually a trumpet player.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that was going to get out. yeah. At one point in my life, I was an actual trumpet player. Yeah, I mean, my father. I start there. I mean, he's a professional trumpet player and composer, arranger. So growing up, yeah, he was primarily known in L.A. as having a brass quintet and brass ensemble. Back when you could have those and work professionally and do union
Yeah.
gigs, the California Brass Ensemble and the California Brass Quintet. So I was real fortunate growing up. I mean, from when I was in diapers to grow up around the best brass players around LA. Many of whom now I've gotten the fortune to interview on a professional level, and so I grew up around that. And I wanted to originally play violin. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Let's lay it all out here today. I wanted to play violin because it looked cool, and in the elementary school orchestra, you could start in third grade on a violin, and then winds didn't start till fourth grade. So in third grade, I wanted to play violin, and my dad said, "Well, John, we don't have a violin line around, but I bet if we talk to the band director in your school, we can get you in on trumpet a year earlier." And I have this nice Constellation trumpet, or con director, yeah,
Oh, nice.
yeah, sitting around, and so you can start tooting on it. So it started then, and then I really haven't looked back. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, I'm fortunate to have a lot of great teachers, none of whom could get through my skull. Uh, you know, the
Well,
correct, relaxed way to play the trumpet. But I'm fortunate to have a lot of great teachers, my dad among them, and yeah, I mean, we could go from there.
yeah. Who'd you
And
study
then
with?
in 1986,
I was gonna say, you went to Cal State Long Beach,
yeah.
and who did you study with?
So yeah, well, I back up a little bit. I mean, my dad never really taught me privately,
Oh,
which is that dynamic
yeah,
didn't work. However, I learned a lot from him through playing duets day after day after. That was his way of teaching me was, "Hey, John, let's go out to my studio and play duets."
yeah.
Bill Bang and Bob Karen were my teachers in high school. And then, yeah,
Oh,
when I went to Cal
wow.
State Long Beach, Charlie Davis. I
Oh,
wanted to do
wow.
something completely different than what my dad did.
Yeah.
Classical stuff. I wanted to be a commercial player, play Jerry Hay stuff. And so I was like, Charlie Davis. So I was there for a few years and ended up transferring and graduating from Cal State Northridge, finishing up with Bill Bang again.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, and during the transfer, I got the opportunity to study with Bob Slack out at Citrus College.
Oh,
So,
cool.
like I said, I mean, you couldn't pick 4 or 5 better teachers.
Well,
So
those are the
fortunate to learn from them.
guys.
So
Yeah.
inspiring, and not just about trumpet playing. All of them, the life lessons they teach are incredible. So I'm very fortunate.
That's so awesome. What are some of, because we all go through struggles. What are some of the things that you struggled with as a young player?
Uh, Discipline, you know, uh, getting the inspiration to practice. Uh, you know, that's self-doubt in a way.
Yeah.
Like I would label myself, uh, John, you're always great at reading. You're always great at the technical stuff, but not range. So I always thought range was something you were born with, and or you had to build up to. So that was a big one. Things I had to learn. Jim Manley was really the one who kind of turned me around on that. Yeah,
Oh, right on.
and in a 20-minute lesson up front here in the shop,
Yeah.
he turned my trumpet playing world upside down.
Oh, wow.
Uh, Able to figure out the physics of the trumpet and what you're supposed to feel in the upper register, things like that. So I attribute a lot to him, and then applying what he told me to then what everyone else tried to teach me for years that couldn't
Yeah.
get into my skull, all of a sudden came into play, and I started revisiting all those things my teachers had given me since day one, and all of a sudden they started working.
So you had an aha moment.
That was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
I-
Yeah.
So I mean, a lot of players that happens to. I mean, I hear professional players say all the time that there's just that one person that just turns the light bulb on for them. So would you suggest that a lot of players that are going through things right now, would you encourage seeing other teachers?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, you have to do it diligently, and you can't just do a shotgun approach. And
Yeah.
same thing with equipment, which I'm sure we'll get into. But get different ideas, because there's a million and one ways to play the trumpet, and you never know what demonstration or what words are going to connect with you specifically.
Yeah.
And then the flip side of that is then you have to take it and make it work for yourself, and that's another thing that no teacher is going to be able to give you. You have to teach yourself at some point and apply those concepts to the way you feel and the music you want to do and the job you need to do. But yeah, get as many, and that's one of the reasons we do the podcast, is get different ideas. Listen, one of the coolest things with the podcast is the connections that are made, where a classical orchestral musician connects with a commercial lead player that you think don't have a whole lot in common in terms of their approach or sound concept, things like that, and realizing, oh wait, we are physically doing the same thing. It's just the application that's a little different. So even if you're getting ready to audition for the Chicago Symphony, listen to what a lead player has to say, and vice versa.
Yeah.
You never know where the idea is going to come.
Well, speaking of your webinar, again, I would encourage anyone to go and check those out. When I heard Eric Marashiro talk about, he doesn't really think about his tongue at all. That blew my mind. I mean, that goes against everything we all been taught,
Yeah.
But for him, so I mean, that's really awesome. Like you said, there are things that whatever turns on the light bulb, and you got to figure it out yourself. So let's talk about this. Did you, after college, did you go out? Did you work LA? Did you want to be a pro player? And
Yeah. I always wanted to be a professional player because I knew no other life. That's what my dad did. And growing up, my dream was always to be in a Jerry Hay horn section kind of thing. I like jazz, I like Latin, I love classical music, I love doing everything. But my real passion was doing horn section stuff. And it's kind of funny because during the timing, I worked more in high school and my early years in college than I did after I actually graduated. And part of that was just the change of the music scene in here. Yeah. You could work in a cover band, a top 40 band, a Latin band, and get paid decently.
Yeah.
In the mid 90s and the late 90s. And you could work at church gigs. I used to do a ton of church gigs and brass quintet gigs and brass ensemble gigs with my dad.
Yeah.
Union paying gigs.
Oh, wow.
In high school and first couple of years in college, and then it just would taper. And it got to the point where after I graduated, which was a while, I won't tell you how long it took me to actually, some professors and teachers are on the 10-year track. I was on the 10-year track in college. Yeah. That's another story. But by the time I actually graduated, I was working the same amount, but my actual income was a fraction of what it was 4, 5, 8 years earlier.
Right.
And just the feasibility of making a career and having stability and a family and things like that. I always had day jobs. I worked in computers. I did web design. During that time, I ended up starting working for Bob, which is a great combination of my skills, but then also being around the brass community. And yeah, it got to the point where I dreaded taking the horn out.
Oh, wow.
It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible because it was my joy. It was what I grew up with. And it just the thought of going out and driving 2.5 hours to make $50 and get stiffed by the club owner and come home and say, tell my wife, sorry, we can't go out to eat this week, or
Yeah.
things like that. It was just terrible. I got to the point where I didn't like practicing. I didn't
Yeah.
like getting my horn out, and so I decided to do something completely different for a while.
Now, a lot of people don't know that other thing is you have a law degree.
Card carrying member of the bar.
Yeah, and
So now I have two useless degrees.
no, well, no. I mean, I know a lot of professional trumpet players that went that route. A lot of professional that went that route, and it's you did what you had to do, and that let me ask you a question, John. Being a person that made that decision, because that decision isn't easy, or some of it isn't easy, because there's a thing that, well, I'm not getting anywhere doing this. I have to do something else. And a lot of times that does hurt a lot of players. I see some players even embarrassed to admit that they have to do something else. What was it pretty easy for you to say, you know what, trumpet, I like you, but I got to eat, and I got a family, I got a wife, I got this. Was that an easy choice to say, I'm going to law school?
It was difficult. Yeah. I mean, at the time, it was both, because in terms of the trumpet playing, like I said, I dreaded getting the horn out of the case.
Yeah.
And it was also a realization that my dreams as a kid weren't coming true.
Yeah.
So that was the hardest part. It was like having to admit yourself that you were a failure in a certain extent. And that's hard to do. But you have to take a step back and realize, well, why are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah.
Was I playing because I wanted to make a lot of money, or was I playing because I love what I do?
Right.
And it was, I have to, it was so great because I had the opportunity to work here at the shop for Bob Reeves. And I talked to a lot of players who, they're comeback players.
Yeah.
So I would consult with them, and I said, yeah, I played in high school, played in college, and then I went on to be an insurance agent or a plumber or computers. And now I'm 65 and retiring, and the first thing I want to do is pick up my trumpet again because that's what I loved.
Yeah.
And they're starting from scratch again. And I said, I don't want that to be me.
Yeah.
So what I did was, when I signed up for law school, I kept one trumpet student, because I knew, first of all, he was getting ready to go into college, and I didn't want to drop him at that point in his life. But then also I realized, once a week I could get my horn out and I would still play. And I knew that would allow me to keep the horn around and do something. And what ended up happening is, when I decided to not take any gigs anymore, not quit all the bands I was in, things like that, I remember the first time I got the horn out for my trumpet lesson after joining law school, and like the joy was there.
Yeah.
The pressure was off. I could play whatever the heck I wanted. I didn't have to worry about range. I didn't have to worry about endurance. I didn't have to worry. And it was like, I was a kid again. And I haven't lost that since then. It's been 13 years.
I've heard people talk about, when it becomes a chore, then it's time to do something else. Figure
out why it's a chore, and and that may be getting your income from somewhere else. It may be changing. I mean, no one's telling you have to be a freelancer.
Yeah.
If you're not happy doing that, find a way to economically not take the gigs that you dread doing and create. It's the joy, it's the music. Find your outlet, because it's there. Right now, my outlet is playing with a lawyer big band, and it's the coolest thing and the coolest gig I've ever done. Yeah, awesome. Because it's a bunch of lawyers and judges and law students that are in demanding careers.
Yeah.
And a lot of what lawyers and judges do is not fun stuff.
Yeah.
They're all musicians at heart, and this is their outlet. And so they're there to play.
Yeah.
We're running out of time. Let's do one more tune. They're not, I have a gig I have to get to, or, the union saying, where this is our 50 and our 10-minute break. It's they have the joy for music. They have the outlet, and they play, so it's really fun. It's really fun.
So let's talk about, so you're in college, or you're getting ready to leave college.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about getting into, how did you get the job with Bob? Was it through your dad, or how did that happen?
Oh man, and this is one of those stories I can't quite tell.
Okay, all right.
No. So here's what I was doing, and I remember the exact moment.
Okay.
Because I was in a computer job doing web programming for a, like we say, semi-legal organization.
Okay. All right.
And I was getting paid well.
Yeah.
I was on my lunch break. I was sitting in my car thinking, man, why am I doing this? I mean, the money's great, but same kind of thing. It's just like day
Yeah.
after day after day, I'm coming into the office and doing programming. And the phone rings, and it was KO, who was the manager here at the shop at the time.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I've never been to the shop. I kind of knew one of my friends at college had a Bob Reeves mouthpiece. I wouldn't couldn't have even told you he was here in LA.
Yeah.
You know, like I was ignorant of the history and the craftsmanship and all that stuff. But they got my name from Bill Bing because
Okay.
Bill was a friend of the shop and they were looking for someone to work in the front. And so I get this call literally out of the blue from the manager here. It says, "Hey, John, you know, my name's KO. We're looking for someone. Uh, would you be interested?"
Yeah.
I mean, I was at that moment sitting in my car thinking, man, I don't like my job. Like,
Wow.
you know, things happen for a
Yeah.
reason. Like, I don't know. And I showed up, I think, the following Monday in a suit with my resume. And Bob said, if you dress nicer than me, this is a machine shop. I'm going to fire you to get out of here in that monkey suit. You know, like, and KO said, what do I need a resume for? Can you? That was it. I was hired on the spot. I think my resume is still on in file in the front here. I
They haven't
almost
even
hate to
looked
go
at.
in and pull it out. Yeah.
They haven't even
Uh,
looked at it yet. Huh?
and I start like no machining background, no
Yeah.
nothing. No, I played a 3C for my mouthpiece was basically kind of like a lot of my customers. I started with a 7C. At some point, my teacher said, "No, you need something bigger, 5C," and then
Yeah.
Charlie Davis said, "You need to get on a 3C," and that was it. That's all I'd ever played.
Oh wow.
So this was a whole new world for me.
So okay, so you're in the shop. Let's talk about the thing that a lot of people, you know, how many years have you been in the shop, by the way?
I mean, it's coming up on 19.
Oh wow.
Yeah, 19. If you, I mean, a year and a half kind of hiatus when I was at law school.
Yeah.
But yeah, 2001.
Oh wow, you should get a gold watch. So- or a gold mouthpiece, one of those.
Yeah, yeah. I'll see what the guys here treat me to.
So, what? First of all, what did working at the shop like when say your first day on the job, and you know, tell us about the first time Bob says, "Come over to the CNC machine," or "Come over to the," you know, like what was the first thing that you had to do machine wise?
Well, I mean, it started not even on the machine. It started being able to stamp lead pipe swabs. Like you had to be able, and that was in the days we used to have a rubber stamp, and every single lead pipe swab had the Bob Reeves logo on it before we switched over to the felt. I mean, I was here probably 6 months, 8 months before they, you know, I had to prove myself to them that I was
Yeah,
willing to do the stuff. I was willing to do the not fun things, cleaning the lathes. I mean, you name it.
yeah,
And then it started with simple machining things. So, like our cylinder reinforcers, things like that, basic cutting of, brass, no mouthpieces, no alignments, no nothing. Then we moved into threading,
hmm
one thing at a time. And it wasn't like a customer's mouthpiece. It's like, John, we're learning threading. And they would have a junk drawer of parts and mouthpieces and things, and they would just have me go at it. And I mean, I, it's stuff you can't learn in school. I mean, it's a
no,
true apprenticeship.
yeah,
It's not a modern day here. We're going to hold your hand. This is, I mean, when Bob Reeves went to machining school in the Navy and then was apprenticing as a tool maker at China Lake,
yeah,
there's tough old guys. I mean, this
yeah.
is in the 50s, which means the guys that were training them were World War One. I mean, like,
Oh yeah,
I mean, the generations you're talking about, no computers, all slide rule. All you got to be able to build the lathe that you're machining on. You know,
right,
you have to understand every single nut and bolt. I mean, you have to be able to take a scrap of iron and make it square, or cube with a hand file and a T square. And oh, by the way, you have 3 hours, and this is a difficult material to work with, and it has to be within a millionth of an inch,
oh yeah,
which we don't, like ridiculous. And this we're talking about 60 years ago, not today with all the kind of digital
right.
luxuries that we have now. So that's how I learned. And Brett here, he's our shop foreman. He's the head
Yeah.
of production here. Uh, that's how he learned. You
Oh
know,
wow.
and it was just adding one thing at a time, and you had to do it until you couldn't miss.
Oh, kind of like
Yeah,
playing trumpet.
exactly, exactly. I mean, and then eventually that moved to the valve alignment thing, and the valve alignment was a 6 month process, easily,
Wow.
easily.
So
Not
let
something you can write a book about, or not something you can learn in an hour. I mean, yeah.
yeah, so let's talk about like let's talk about the valve alignments. Let's talk about the one of the things I'm hearing a lot of. So I'll just for some of you at home, this is how I got connected with John and Bob. A good friend of mine, Roger Wood, pulled took me kicking and screaming to Bob Reeves. I was like, I'm not going. I don't need a valve alignment. I don't need a mouthpiece. I don't know. He's like, look, just go and get it done. So I had been putting it off for 15 years. I mean, so I go and meet John, and John's the nicest guy. And so, John, you tell everybody I go and get this done. And so John's like, look, if you don't like it, I'll undo it and I'll give you your money back. And you guys even did it like that weekend when I was in town. So I go home and I have a recording session, which I have to finish up that I started a month earlier. I record, and the engineer's like stops, and he says, "You been using? You have a new trumpet or something? Or I'm like, no. He goes, no. Look at these wave lengths, man. He goes, everything's like really nice and even. You sound really good. Have you been practicing? I'm like, oh wait, if he heard it, then there's something to this valve alignment. So, John, when someone says, why should I get a valve alignment? What do you tell them?
Woo,
Woo!
woo. Well, I mean, it's got to be one of the most important things you can do. You know, we have a kind of a pyramid. If I had a PowerPoint behind me, the
Yeah.
next webinar we'll have a whole multimedia thing.
All right.
You know, like you have to think of your equipment kind of as a pyramid, where the foundation is the instrument, right? I don't care how good the mouthpiece is, how heavy your caps are, how good the valve alignment is. If your instrument isn't the right one for you, you're putting a band-aid on your neck's
Yeah.
halfway falling off. Like, it's not going to fix the problem. So, okay, but you have an instrument, let's say, that you love the sound of, it does the job you need to do. The biggest issue with that is the valves are out by different amounts. And by that means the holes in the valves are not lining up properly with the holes in the valve casing. And you think, okay, big deal, right? Well, the problem is each valve will be out by a different amount, which means every time you're playing the seven bugles, right? Each different
Yeah.
valve combination, you're getting a different pitch tendency, you're getting a different response, you're getting different colors in the sound, you're getting a different projection, slotting, especially as you get in the upper and lower register, gets affected because it's a response thing. There's a standing wave in the instrument, an acoustic standing wave, and we know. I mean, this is settled literature from 100 years ago that the first few inches, meaning the mouthpiece and the first part of the lead pipe, the last few inches, meaning just the very end of the bell flare,
Mhm.
and halfway through the instrument are acoustically the most important part of the whole setup,
Yeah.
right? And that makes sense. I mean, acoustically, it makes sense. And you talk about different bell flares and how much they affect, it makes sense. And you talk about mouthpiece and gap and all that stuff to make a huge difference. Well, people always ignore all of that complicated stuff that's halfway through, which falls conveniently into the valve cluster.
Yeah.
And so if you have misset valves in there and basically effectively bore alterations because the valves being misaligned that are not consistent, it's going to affect the overall performance. People always think it's an airflow thing.
Yeah.
It's not, oh man, you're getting that much airflow through, because it's not. I mean, you try blowing through a 460 hole, there's no, I don't care what you say, blow between a 450 and a 460 diameter hole, you're not going to feel a difference. It's not airflow, it's
Yeah.
the standing acoustic wave. And my story is similar to yours, Joe.
Yeah.
I came up here. I had a beautiful Burbank Benge trumpet. My dad grew up in Burbank, and he had Benges, so we were a Benge family. I love the instrument. I thought it was perfect the way it was,
Yeah.
and I worked here for 6, 7 months. without an alignment. I was telling people on the phone what an alignment was and how good it was. Never had one myself because I didn't think I needed it because I thought my horn played great.
Right.
And man, I remember the day I was practicing for my senior recital at Northridge. I was staying late and in the front room here practicing my piccolo. And Bob Reeves was staying late, taking care of work. And Bob's kind of a shy guy. And so even though I've been here for 6 or 8 months,
Yeah.
like we didn't have a whole lot of conversations on a personal level other than him telling great stories or showing me how to do things. He came in, opened the door to the front room, and grabbed the piccolo out of my hands. He's like, John, don't take this the wrong way, but I can't stand hearing you practice that thing. Right? And at this point now I know who Bob Reeves is, the legend, the people he's worked with. And, I just went white as a sheet.
Yeah.
And I was like, Bob, I have a recital in a few weeks. Like, no, you trust me. I'm doing your horn. And same thing that I told you, Joe. I was like, if you don't like it, John, I can put it right back, right where you are now. You do your recital, and then we'll talk.
Yeah.
He goes in the back, comes back hour and a half later. I'm practicing my other stuff. Hands me the piccolo, and it's a different instrument. And we don't necessarily advise people of this, but before my recital, I had my B flat, my C, my cornet, my E flat all aligned because it made such a big difference. And I mean, I couldn't imagine what my recital would have sounded like had I not aligned up. And because Bob, and part of it was perception. Bob could hear evenness, and I wasn't. My hearing wasn't acute enough yet to hear those differences. So it made me a better musician, hearing the instrument the way it was supposed to be played.
Well, yeah. One of the things I really liked about Bob is when because I met you before I met Bob. Bob didn't really explain the mechanics of the alignment to me. He said, "Look, this is what it does, and if you don't like it, I'll I mean, he was never ever trying to sell me anything. That's one of the things I just adore about Bob. And if Bob will sit there and if your mouthpiece sounds better than whatever he's giving you, he'll be like, "That's great. Get out of my shop." I mean, everything's cool. We'll go have a beer later, but you don't have to buy anything.
Yeah, yeah. Where our goal, and then I learned this about day one. Other than you can't dress nicer than Bob, because it's a machine shop. A few expletives, and then it's a machine shop. Is our goal is to make you sound better. Than you came in. When you walk out the door, you sound better. You can make music easier than when you walked in. It's not about us. Sometimes it's because you bought a Bob Reeves mouthpiece. Sometimes it's because you got a valve alignment. Sometimes it's because there's nothing we can do to help you because there were so many fundamental issues with the plane that equipment's not going to do anything. It's also the economics of it. Maybe you have parts already that work for you. So why spend a few $100s to reinvent the wheel when we can, for $50, take what you're already playing and alter it or put parts together and leave with something that you're going to sound better, and you spent $150 less than if you had bought something that says Bob Reeves on it.
Right.
I mean, it's a no-brainer. And that builds trust, which is why we have customers that call up that said they got their first custom mouthpiece in 1972, and now they need something else. Or, hey, Bob threaded a rim for me and when I was in high school in the 70s, and now I need something else. Like, they remember that trust.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about, I can just see all the young people right now going to their moms and say, "Mom, I need $225 to get a valve alignment." So, let's talk about, how do you know when it's you or when you're on the wrong? John, you see thousands of players a year, thousands of people come through the shop, and I think you're a leading expert on this issue, because even with me, you're like, well, this is only going to do this. The rest is up to you. And so, if you were to tell like a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old high school, college kid, who's getting ready to spend their money right now, at what point do you say, "Hey, look, it's not the equipment, it's you"?
Well, that's a great question. And if I had the perfect answer, I'd be a zillionaire right now, because it comes down to the concept that the mouthpiece, the instrument, is a tool.
Yeah.
Right. So, and there's a million analogies you can make about that with plumbing or building a house or whatever. I
Yeah.
mean, when is it skill and when is it the tool? Well, look, if you're going in to plumb a house with one wrench, you could be the most talented plumber in the world and you may be able to do it, but is it the most efficient thing? Especially if you're charging by the hour. Right? Well, then maybe it might be. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, but you have to treat it as such. Like you
Yeah.
have to not be scared of the equipment. You have to have, I think, a basic understanding of the physics of the instrument, and I think that's a big issue. The number of people that call us or email us and say, "Man, John, I can't get enough air through the instrument." You have to realize that they're approaching the equipment side of things the whole wrong way.
Yeah.
You know, what you're feeling with the equipment is not airflow.
Mm-hmm.
Done. That's it. If you think it is, you might have to think about air to play the instrument, and we have to separate that.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother thing. How you actually learn the instrument and thinking about air is one thing. But in terms of the actual physics of the mouthpiece and the instrument, you can't think about airflow. And so you have to start from there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of good examples. You have the trumpet player that has the mouthpiece, the 7C that was with their instrument. We have players that have been playing that for 40 years and have never tried anything else, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it worked. Maybe their job never demanded anything else, and that's fine, right? If you play in community bands or if you are innately talented or you practice 12 hours a day and you can get that 7C that came in your, maybe even a no brand 7C.
Yeah.
That's not even a 7C, and you've gotten the sound and the joy out of playing that you need, then you don't need another mouthpiece.
Right.
So you have to start thinking about when you do. Now, if you're young and you're 15 and 16, you probably should practice. Right? Like 99%, the problem is you need to practice, because unless you've started at 8 and you've put the hours in on the instrument and you're honest with yourself and you've reached a certain level of playing, you can't be at a level at 16 where you can even really decide what you're going to do. The only caveat to that is players that have been, they're disciplined, they practice, they've had good education, and let's say they want to be a classical player and now they've gotten thrown in as lead in their jazz band.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know about you, but jazz bands today are different, or big bands are different than when I was in school.
Yeah, me too.
Like they're playing Gordon Goodwin charts. The lead players
still
are expected to play stupid high notes, at 17, 16 years old, 17 years old. And I'm like high C and high D, I think was the range when I was in high school. Right? So you have a kid who's, getting ready to go on to college and he's been playing a 3C or a 1.5C or something. Maybe a tempered mouthpiece that's going to allow that kid to play a little bit easier in the big band without playing too hard,
right,
might be appropriate. Or outside in marching band, get a mouthpiece that can help project more so they're not forcing. Because the big issue is, okay, I'm playing a fairly large orchestral style mouthpiece because I want to go on and be a classical major in college. And now I'm standing outside on the 50-yard line trying to blow down the bleachers. And then you end up developing chop problems, because you're forcing a mouthpiece that wasn't designed to do those sort of things.
Right.
And then you end up hurting yourself. You end up creating tension. You end up creating breathing problems because you're forcing a hammer to do something that a wrench was supposed to do. So that's when you might look at equipment. If you're looking for equipment for a fix, you always look at yourself first.
Yeah.
And being honest with yourself.
Right.
Then it never hurts to try.
So
and this is the thing. Before I let you go, it never hurts to try. And that's where people, I think that the biggest mistake is players are fear putting something up. It's like you got to know what doesn't work in order to know what works.
Right.
Right. So play something that's too small, play something that's too big, play something that's too deep, play something that's too shallow. And that gives you confidence of wherever you're at.
Yeah. So here's one of the things, John, I see a lot at, I mean, I've seen you guys at ITG. I've seen you guys at various things. And the first thing people, and mostly younger players, but I see a lot of pro players doing this too, because I won't try a mouthpiece at NAM, or I won't because I can't hear how it, because here's the thing. the first thing, John, I notice when a lot of people they'll start screaming high notes, and one of the things that you told me when when I told you, hey, I need something because I do a lot of salsa or whatever. You're like, okay, what I need you to do is I need you to turn on that tuner right there, and I need you to play an F scale up to B flat. And there's the key. Can you explain the concept of the money notes like the B flat, the D, the open G, those things that you need when you're trying on a new mouthpiece, you should really listen for. And if those don't slot correctly, then you need to try something else
Yeah, well,
instead
yeah.
of blowing double G and going, oh yeah, I'll take it.
So yeah, and that leads to why are you buying the piece of equipment, And that it's kind of a follow up to what we were just talking about is okay, let's say you are in the practice room, you are disciplined, you have plateaued and you know your fundamentals are good, yet you're still having issues. Range, projection, endurance, could be a comfort thing, right?
Right.
Man, after I play for an hour, I feel all beat up, even though I practice 4 hours a day, whatever, that sort of thing. Okay, those are all things that point to maybe you're not playing on the right piece of equipment. So then I recommend trying stuff, like I said,
Yeah.
have a place. For some people, going to NAM or going to ITG is the only access to something. Is it the most ideal place? No.
No.
Can you make the most of it? Yes.
No.
And how do you do that? Well, you find a quiet corner, but you also go in with a plan of attack.
Yeah.
Okay. So write it down in a journal, write it down on your phone,
Yeah.
just like you would going to the market. Say, what do I need to achieve with a new piece of equipment? Does my sound need to be brighter? Does it need to be darker? Does it need to have more sizzle? Do I need an easier upper register? Do I need a more full low register? Is it a comfort thing? Do I need to go in and find the right rim?
Yeah.
And then, or maybe, hey, I'm now playing in a Latin band and there's a lot of high F sharps in there.
Yeah.
It's just like golf equipment, right? You don't want it to necessarily compensate for things that you're doing fundamentally wrong.
Right.
However, if you have a job to do and you slice left or whatever, buy a club that helps you correct that.
Yeah.
Just like with a mouthpiece. If you know the F sharp doesn't, if there's a shape of the cup or a backboard that allows you to nail that note more consistently, that means you're going to sound better on the job, which means you're going to get hired back next time, which means you're going to feel better about yourself, which means you're going to practice. It snowballs.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there are certain money notes, but I think they're different for every player and they're different for every horn, right? So if you're going to play in an orchestra, you don't need to know how the G above high C slots.
Right.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. It seems silly and it seems obvious, but not when we watch people test stuff at conferences.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're playing in a lead in a big band and you have a lot of high A's and double C's, okay, yeah, you need to know it works up there.
Yeah.
There's a smart way about doing it. Then there's also showing off, but you have to find the tool for the job, which means you have to test it out. So then the other side of that is and we kind of touched on this, is the honeymoon period that people talk about. Well, how do you address that? Well, for one thing, look, we're human, and you have to understand that we can adjust, we can adapt to anything.
Right.
Okay, so when you hand someone a mouthpiece and they say, "Yeah, I could make that work," and I was like, "Well, yeah, you can. I can also hand you a garden hose, and with enough time and practice, you can make that work."
Right.
The question is it better than what you walked in the door with?
Right.
So how do you find that? There has to be an initial spark.
Mm-hmm.
Like the very first note, the very first attack. Because after maybe a split second, I'm talking about half a second, you're already adjusting, right?
Right.
Your brain, your ears are so connected. Maybe not a very beginner player, but let's say an intermediate high school player and up already has the wherewithal, the musical sense, the connectivity with their brain and their embouchure and stuff to adjust like that.
Right.
Okay. So sometimes it helps to have someone there because they know on the front end, this is what we listen to. When we're listening, I don't care how high you end up playing on your scale. I'm listening to the first note.
Right.
Right. When you played the F scale up to B flat, we're testing for intonation stuff, but I was listening to your first F.
Right.
How easy did that speak? Where was the sound in the bell? Was the sound muffled inside the bell? Was the sound too spread and outside of the bell? Or was it right at the end of the bell flare? Right. That's when I know it's a right fit. That's when I know your embouchure is set comfortably for you. That's when I know the response is right there. Okay. Um, then, yeah, there may be things that are in a different spot
Yeah.
depending on how much. Okay, I'm going from a real deep orchestral mouthpiece all of a sudden to a real efficient lead piece. That's like driving a semi truck to driving a little sports car.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some of the slots and things are going to be off. So if you crack a note or miss a note in testing equipment, that doesn't mean it's bad. That's where the adjustment period comes in,
Mm.
right? So if there's that initial spark, that initial sound, that initial whatever you're looking for in the first second, then you can adjust to then learning the equipment.
Okay.
But I think what happens is the reverse happens,
Yeah.
right? You pick up a new mouthpiece, you pick up a new horn, you play something, and then yeah, you might end up being able to play a note higher, but you don't realize on the back end how much you're then adjusting already to that piece of equipment. So guess what? You get back in the practice room and you practice for an hour,
Yeah.
and what happens? After an hour, you're beat up because
Mm.
all of that adjustment takes away your endurance. You go out on a gig and you're adjusting more here. You're
Yeah.
adapting to something that you didn't realize initially was better for you. You were going on something already down the line. And that's where that honeymoon period and the
Yeah.
drawer full of mouthpieces ends up.
Would you recommend? I heard you say this before too. Would you recommend to especially young players before they try out a mouthpiece, before they try out even a horn, to warm up for an hour first, then go try the mouth? Because when you're fresh, you're going to sound great on anything. You know, you're going to hit whatever you're going for when you're fresh. But after you've been playing for an
Yeah.
hour, would you recommend that or?
I mean, you don't want to be beat up, you know?
Yeah.
You definitely want to be warmed up, right? You
Yeah.
don't want to go in cold because then you're cold, you're trying to get going, and then you're adjusting to new equipment, things like that.
Yeah.
So you want to have a decent warm up. You don't want to be on the point of being beat up only because when you start at testing equipment, you have a very small window,
Right.
unless you're Roger Wood. I hope he's watching because we can joke about him.
Yes, we can.
I love Roger.
And I
What
think we should. We
what an
should,
incredible player because his window is probably 4 hours long.
Right.
And I know that firsthand. But no, honestly, like if you try more than 2 or 3 or 4 things within a short window, you're done.
Yeah.
I don't care how strong you are. I don't care how. I mean, just physically, mentally, like your focus is gone because the sensations you're feeling and trying to analyze wear you out. So you want to be kind of right in that. Okay, I'm just warmed up. I'm kind of at a place where I'm ready to play, and then let's try something new. Uh, and yeah, I mean, we can go into a whole lot more about how to actually try stuff because that's a whole science in itself.
Well, as a teacher, and I'm sure you being a teacher, uh, one of the things I get from a lot of parents, okay, is how do I know when it's time for my kid to get a new mouthpiece? Can you answer that for all the parents at home? Because a lot of them are watching this. How do I know when it's time for my kid to upgrade?
That's a great question. Obviously, you want to do it in guidance with their teacher,
Yeah.
right? Because there's nothing worse than going out and buying a shiny new mouthpiece. You take it to your lesson, and then your teacher just goes, you know, "What did you do?" Because let's be honest, a lot of music stores out there, a lot of places either don't stock a lot of good things, and if they do stock good stuff, do they actually have a trumpet player that's good at finding equipment,
Yeah.
you know, for a young student? Chances are very low. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why people fly out here. You know, that's why people fly to a place like Dylan Music to
Yeah.
visit, you know, because these places are rare now. Uh, it just goes back to what I was saying. It doesn't hurt to try, though.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to buy anything. So go into your local music store, and if they have 5 or 6 3C, 7C, 1.5C, and you're on, say, your 7C, try them. Spend 15 minutes, try them. Don't plan on buying anything, but just say, I'm going to see what these are like, and then go home. You know, and then if something sticks out in your brain or something felt comfortable, and this is for teachers, like get a set of mouthpieces, right?
Yeah.
Like have something small, have something middle sized, have something big, and if you can afford it, have a range. Have something a little deep, have something a little shallower. This was something, even after working for Bob, I used to coach a middle school and brass section.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had the luxury of being able to take 10.5C, 7C, 6C, 3C, you know, 1.25C, and you'd be amazed how fast a beginner starts if the diameter is closer to what's comfortable for them.
Oh wow.
I
Yeah.
mean, I used to have, let's say, I started 20 new trumpets every
Yeah.
semester, right? There was always 5 or 6 that had a problem making a sound, right? Out of the
Yeah.
20 on average. And over the course of a next 1, 2, sometimes even 3 weeks for some of the really weird embouchure types, they would all of a sudden then start getting in it. But then some of the kids would struggle for a semester or two,
Yeah.
right? Some were naturally great in the low register, upper register, things like that. But to say play an even octave and a half, or 2 octaves after a year or 2 years, you know, it was very difficult. And they were all on just the band, whatever was in there, which were mostly 7Cs. When I started bringing in the set, and I spent the first day just lining them up from big to small, and I went through a lot of Santa Mist, right?
All right.
But literally, kid number one, play on this, play on this, play on this, play on this. More often than not, and it was a crapshoot.
Yeah.
I had kids starting on a 1C.
Oh wow.
Who'd have thunk? Middle school, 10, 11-year old. It just set on their face. And I had kids on a 10.5C. And it's kind of a bell curve, right? Most people were in that 7C, 6C kind of range.
Right.
The next year, I didn't have one kid that wasn't making a sound on the first day.
Oh wow.
Like all of the stuff I was trying to get people to buzz or blow the lead pipe or any, all the different techniques, if I got them closer to the right diameter for their face, all of a sudden. And so then what happens? These kids are excited.
Yeah.
Man, I'm making a noise like the other kids instead of I'm the behind one. Because, the behind ones very rarely end up catching up because they have that mindset.
Right.
So just having a kid on the very first buzz, whether you teach lip buzzing or mouthpiece buzzing or lead pipe buzzing or just blowing through the horn, having them closer to that right diameter from day one made all the difference.
Yeah.
So as a private teacher, look, I mean, some teachers get it, right? Some teachers understand the importance of having the right size. Some teachers have the look, you have to start here and you have to go here, things like that. If it worked for them, great. But on our side of things, the number of people the students that either never make it because they were so frustrated because they had the wrong tool or ended up wasting valuable time, right?
Right.
And that's the key. What's the most precious thing we have is time. So if you've wasted 5 years of your life practicing on the wrong thing, or 10 years, man, I had a guy last year call me.
Mm-hmm.
This is the most amazing thing. Semi-professional player, professional in high school, college, community symphony, freeway symphony kind of gigs, right? Mm-hmm. But he continued playing semi-professionally as a sub in the local symphonies and weddings and things all through his career. Okay, had another day job, but a fairly high-level player his whole career. Retires, decides to become a full-time professional player in his retirement because he can. Mm-hmm. Sits in a big band, player next to him gives him a Bob Reeves mouthpiece. Now, this could have been anything, but he called us, and this is why. And he called us to tell us and said, John, I switched to my friend's mouthpiece, and my endurance doubled overnight. Right? Like, I do this every day, and I hear people tell me things are improved. And, you kind of get jaded to the idea of like, yeah, if you pick the right thing, things are going to improve. But he said, no, I literally could play an hour and a half. When I practiced 6 hours, when I practiced an hour and a half every day, I could literally only play an hour and a half. My friend gave me this Bob Reeves mouthpiece. I like the sound better than what I've been playing for 45 years. And now I play 3 hours. He's like, man, I wished I found this mouthpiece 45 years ago because my life might have been different. But hey, better late than never. I'm going to enjoy my retirement that much more. And I just wanted you guys to know. Thank you. It's like, well, I didn't tell you to play the mouthpiece. You got to thank the guy next to you who led it over. But that's the thing. We as humans want to say, well, you got to do it in the practice room. You can overcome it. Yes, you do. Yeah. Yes, you do. You have to be accountable and honest with yourself at the fundamentals. But man, if you're showing up to plumb a house with one wrench, right? I mean, if you're on the driving range and you have a putter and that's all you have, stand there for 40 years and learn how to drive 300 yards with a putter. Be my guest. It'll make a great YouTube video. But why?
Right.
It's.
I wanted to talk to you about the myth of large equipment or large mouthpieces, because this is something that we all have been taught. And, John, I I apologize. I'm not trying to monopolize your time. We will get to the questions, guys. It's just there's so much to talk about.
Well, I just talk too much. You see, I ask the questions all the time on the podcast, and so now like I'm let loose now.
We're jumping down the rabbit hole, John. So if it's cool, if I can keep you like an extra 10, 15 minutes, that's cool.
Hey man, it's Sunday, and I'm getting overtime here at the shop, so I don't. Oh wait a minute, I'm the one who does payroll. Wait a minute.
Oops.
Oh shoot.
So let's talk about that myth. Okay. Oh, if you want a bigger sound, you got to switch to bigger equipment. You got to get a bigger cup. You got to get a bigger. Bill Chase played on a 6A. You know, and he had probably the biggest sound I've ever heard. Can you debunk that myth and the science behind why that is not true?
Well, I mean, you have to go back to where it started. Yeah. And this is tricky because Bob's done a lot of research on this, as have we. Yeah. You know, and there's like with the orchestral world, I mean, a lot of it has to do with Bud Herseth, you know, switching to the 1C, which of course we know he did after his, you know, his lip injury, yeah. You know, so he had to go big to cover scar tissue. And before that, he was on a 7 size, yeah. Right? And it's hard to say because large mouthpieces work for some people. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to say something that'll make you discount or not try a large mouthpiece.
No, but there is a myth.
But there is yeah, and that's a part of that is systemic from the look, you need to have a dark sound.
Yeah.
Right. If you want a dark sound, play flugelhorn. Play tuba. Right. It's a trumpet, and really what ends up happening is, and this is part of the systemic part, is teachers recommend something that's too big because their student plays bright. Yeah. Well, is their student playing bright because the equipment's too small, or is it because of something fundamental with their playing or something fundamental with their sound concept, right? Big equipment is harder to play. Requires more energy here with the embouchure. It requires more energy from you. Well, a lot of times when you're using too much energy, it's a quick way to have tension start building up in your shoulders and in your neck and your jaw and all that stuff. And so a lot of times trumpet players sound brighter on bigger equipment because it's harder to play than when they're playing something that's more efficient and more set for their embouchure. Then they relax and the sound's bigger. And this I'd love to bring Jim Manley back up again. And I'm going to plug, he was the last episode of the podcast. So listen to Jim, and he's got some great YouTube videos, that explain more of his breathing and air concept. But this is I love to tell this story, so I'm gonna I'm gonna tell it. So I was my 20-minute lesson in front here in the shop. Yeah. At the time, I was playing the 3C. I thought I had a nice big classical sound. Yeah. Teutonic, my favorite word, right? Which doesn't mean anything. And I remember, and I knew Jim. Jim was a high note guy. We used to play his CDs here, and it's like, yeah, that guy can play up to triple Cs. Yeah. What is some high note guy? I mean, he was born with that, and I mean, all the terrible trumpet things that we think as trumpet players, when people can do things that we can't do, right? Right. I'm the most guilty of that, right? But KO and Bob said, you got to have a lesson with Jim. You got to have a lesson with Jim. Okay, so we go up in the front. Jim says, John, play me a C scale. And I've cocky me. How many octaves, Jim? Right? Right? Yeah. Just one octave, John. Just low C to middle C, right? Yeah. And back down. So there I go with my orchestral mouthpiece and my bench trumpet, and I play this biggest, broadest sound I could possibly play up and down. Yeah, John. Yeah, good sound. Good sound. This is what you sound like. And here's Jim. At the time, he was using a 6310Z, right? Bobby shoehorn, sizzle, right? And his mouthpiece is incredible. I mean, it's like flat. Yeah. No bite to the rim, just goes into this little dip of a cup, 30 bore size. I mean, like, you could barely see through it. And cocky old me is like, oh, man, what's this going to be? He's going to play for me now and show me my sound. And then he played my sound. Oh, wow. Right? Yeah. I was speechless. Yeah. Okay. So at that point, he could have sold me a Cadillac, right? I mean, I was sold. Okay. Yeah. And then, and this is the thing. This is the follow-up. He says, now this is the sound I think you want to get, John. And then he plays the C scale again on his equipment. and he sounds like Bud Hurst. I mean, it was like this gorgeous, rich, vibrant classical sound. And I couldn't believe it. I
Yeah.
absolutely couldn't. I didn't think I couldn't believe it. And that's what I said. Like it literally turned what I thought about trumpet and also got my ego in check.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Great learning lesson, let's be honest, right? And he said it's all in the air. It's all in the air and you're using way too much. And because of that, you're also using way too much here. Too
Yeah.
much tension. And that's why I can get a darker sound on my setup than you can with your orchestral setup. Three things: too much air, too much tension, or a combination of the both.
Yeah.
So you work on doing less tension, less air, which means more efficient setup.
Yeah.
You can, and here's the thing, you have the right equipment for that.
Yeah.
So you can do that a lot quicker than I can and a lot easier than I can with my lead or, his efficient setup because his isn't designed to play an orchestra, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You'll be able to get there.
Wow. That's
Yeah. And
yeah.
that's changed my life. Changed my life. Yeah.
That,
I
that,
walked
that's
I
a heck
walked
of a
out both inspired and said, "Man, I need to put my ego in check." And I got to it was a I've never been the same since then, you know.
Well, I mean, that's a great lesson. I mean, and thank you for sharing that because, it takes lessons like that for us to really. Um, One of the things I've noticed is that um, a lot. You even said this to me in LA. A lot of the cinema players play darker. You even told that to me. They look for that darker sound. You know, but they're everybody's playing on different stuff. They're not all playing on huge mouthpieces. I know that Rick Baptist, his mouthpieces wasn't that big. So
Yeah.
let me. Again, thank you for helping me debunk that myth, so to speak, because it really, yeah. If
It
you
was
have
all
good,
about big equipment, but that was the thing. But
yeah,
here's the takeaway. I mean, I don't want to ruin the takeaway because the takeaway I think was pretty obvious.
yeah,
I mean, he did say in the short term I could get sound like that on my equipment.
yeah,
Jim saying that. He's like, if I had to go sit in a symphony hall, he would not play on the equipment he was doing because he had to make so much adjustment with his air and his all of that stuff to get that sound. He wouldn't last 5 minutes.
right,
So that's the thing, but that's not the job he does. But it shows you the power of what you can do with a proper sound concept and being set up efficiently here, airflow, things like that.
right.
So
So, guys, I apologize. I got John. I'm getting so many questions just rolling in. I'm going to start with the questions, and forgive me, guys. This is hearing John talk about this stuff and answer the questions that we all want to ask, but we're too scared to ask. So,
here's
John,
the thing. Here's the thing. I'm pretty accessible here at the shop as well. So
yeah,
it's not
yeah,
like I'm going to do this thing and then just disappear off the face of the planet. So if any, especially mostly technical stuff, I'm happy to consult with people because that's what my job is. But I have been known for people to call and talk to me, and then I go up in the front room and chat for a while just to chat. That's part of the job we do here. So
Well, one thing too, and I'll say John's not paying me to do this. I'll say this, John. I think we tried like 17 mouthpieces the first time I was there, and John literally said, "It's my job to sit here and listen to you play. It's what I do." So when you go to Bob Reeves, and one thing I liked about it is John's like, "Look, man," and that's why you should set an appointment too. So
especially now because we can only have one person here at the time.
right,
Sometimes it turns into a party here pre-COVID. It's hectic, but it's fun. Yeah, now like legally we can only have one person here. So yeah, make sure you call.
make sure you call. So John, let me get to these questions, man.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
fire away, man.
fire them off. Okay. So here's Ron Appel.
Appel, Ron, hey buddy.
Yeah. At CSUN, did you do more jazz or commercial playing? What did you study? Well, you already talked about who you studied with at CSUN. Yeah.
Yeah. So at Northridge, yeah, Bill Bing. And I wanted to study with Bill because I wanted another shot. I wanted to think I was more mature than when I was 13, and he was my first real private instructor. I wasn't mature enough. I still don't think I was mature enough at 22. you know, but I wanted another chance with Bill to get his approach and give it a real shot, better than when I was a stupid teenager. Um, and I owe so much to Bill. I mean, he is
Yeah.
one of the wisest, most musical people on the planet. And he's one of those guys that he knew when it was time to go out and get sushi. Right? He knew
Yeah.
when I was just, I was part of my problem was I was overthinking things, and he knew when he couldn't. We're playing something, and I was so bound up and tight. He knew it was time to just go out and talk music over sushi. And I love Bill. What was the other part of the question about Northridge? What was for
Uh,
jazz and
yeah.
classical? Yeah, so I
Commercial
mean,
plane.
yeah, so technically I was a classical major.
Yeah.
At the time, they only had, I think, one or two jazz trumpet major kind of things. I mean, since that time, they've developed an incredible jazz program there,
Yeah.
which I think if I had gone now, I would have been a jazz major because
Yeah.
I mean, it's on fire. That being said, I played in the A band, I played in everything.
Did
I
you
was,
did you do the studio band with Matt Harris? Did
yeah,
you do this?
yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was a fun section. Chris Gray was in there.
Oh
He
wow.
ended up going on with Barry Manilow,
Yeah.
and he's playing on the Oscars and stuff. Great player. So yeah, I did that. I was on scholarship there, so I was at their beck and call. But also, that's what you do in college, right? You play in
Yeah.
a quintet, you play in a jazz combo, you play in the salsa band, you play in wind ensemble and orchestra. That's what you do. And so yeah, I was pretty busy. But in terms of my professional playing, by that point, I was playing more commercial stuff. I was playing in a lot of cover top 40 bands. I had a fairly successful kind of swing Latin band that I was playing in. So I was playing 7 nights a week
Oh wow.
by that point. Yeah, it was roaring, but it was a fun time. I don't know how I survived doing it, but that's one of those things that
Yeah.
when I was thinking about law school, I was like, well, hey, I can put in 80 hours a week, no problem. I've been doing it for the last 15 years. So sitting at home reading a book for 15 hours without having to drive somewhere, no problem. How wrong I was.
So
That'll be another webinar.
so my buddy Brandon Luce out of Florida says, so is large bore versus medium bore not really make a difference?
Everything affects everything.
Yeah.
Everything affects everything. In the old days, most players played medium bores. You look at a lot of the New York box and Mount Vernon box, a lot of them were medium bore, and then they played on slightly more open mouthpieces. The back bores, Proviant's back bore is pretty big, designed in the 30s and 40s, because a lot of those guys were playing tight horns, but wanted more open up front. Now things have kind of reversed. Horns are more open, free blowing, and you can go a little more efficient up front. Here's the thing, though, is that medium bore or is that large bore horn lined up? Because that can make a huge difference. A large bore horn that's 15 thousandths of an inch out of alignment will play more like a medium large. So there's a lot of
Wow.
players out there playing on unaligned large bore horns thinking that they need something big to blow through, but really when the middle valve clusters choke down because of misalignment, they're playing on a medium large or even medium bore horn. And then that kind of trickles down. So, well, I can't play a medium bore because it feels tight. Well, a medium bore horn out of alignment is a micro bore horn,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
438 or 440, medium bore 450, that's 15 thousandths or 20 thousandths of an inch out. You're playing a 410, 420 horn.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it'll play tight. Go figure. But how do you think about it? How do you approach that from a player's perspective? Well, all of those things, it's a system. So I'll talk about mouthpieces because we know that the best.
Yeah.
People always say, well, I have to play a 24 bore, the throat size of the mouthpiece. We call it the bore.
Yeah.
A little more technical. 30 is pretty much the tightest you can go. You can go up to a 1310. We
Ooh.
put a 1/4 inch drill through a mouthpiece, see if we can play
Wow.
it, right? Um, it's a balance. So we could make a really large size bore, a 13, 15 bore, play tight. We can make a 30 bore play open, depending on how you balance it with all the other parts. So you have to look at the whole thing as a system. And if you we're trumpet players, we like numbers. So if you get fixated on a number, you're ignoring the whole rest of the system, which will then lead you astray.
Wow. That's a lot, John.
And then look, we want to educate when people
Yeah.
come in. then look, bottom line is we'll do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Roy Poper, he's the professor out in Oberlin,
Yeah.
great studio player, LA Chamber. I mean, his version of the Brandenburg 2 out here was like infamous.
Yeah.
He come into the shop as a high school kid to Bob and put a 24 hole in this. Bob would go in the back, put in a 24 hole in it and give it back and charge him $5, right? Did that for years. And then at one point, I forgot what the catalyst was.
Yeah.
I think one of Roy's friends said, "You need to go get a valve alignment." And so Roy came in and said, "Oh, I need a valve alignment on my piccolo." And Bob said, "Well, why didn't you do that before?" Right? And Bob said, "You never asked. You came in here and told me what to do. And so
Right.
I did it." And we've kind of changed our ways since then. Like
Yeah.
now, if someone comes in and says, "Give me a 24," we say, "Are you sure you want to do that?" Or we kind of ask some auxiliary questions to make sure that's the right thing, because the worst part is when someone then says, "Well, my mouthpiece ruined. Why didn't you tell me this was going to ruin my mouthpiece?" Then it comes back on us. "Hey, dude, we were just doing what you told us to do." Now we kind of, being in business for 50 years gives you a little bit now where you can say, "You may not want to do that. We'll still do it for you. You're still the boss.
Right.
You're paying the bill. We'll do what you want. You might want to know there's other things you might want to try first. Try the paper trick. See if it's a gap thing, because that'll confirm what the feeling's going to be like if you open a bore size, things like that."
Wow.
But it
Okay.
is deep.
So Mike Downing, fellow trumpet player here in Arizona. How does the classic Proviance line of mouthpieces differ from the current Bob Reeves design?
Woohoo! They're different
Is
but
that
related. They're different
okay?
but related. I mean, look, Bob apprenticed with Proviance. When John Kleiman first got Bob a lathe,
Okay.
he said, "Look, you need to. I don't care how good a machinist you are. You need to apprentice with someone who's doing the thing.
Yeah.
So he went to Benj and worked for Benj for a few years, and then building horns in the Burbank factory, and then started working for Proviance in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And so, long story short, when Proviance passed away, Bob inherited all of the Proviance tooling.
Yeah.
But by that point, Bob had run two shops. Proviance passed away in '69. Bob opened Bob Reeves Brass in '68. And during that kind of crossover period, he was both building his own mouthpieces and then also still running the Proviance shop. Bob's first years, though, were only custom. He didn't have a 42S. So once he inherited the Proviance tooling, there wasn't competition then, obviously. He took some of the things that Proviance, some of the popular models,
Yeah.
and sort of modernized them. There was some, like the 4-star K4, the 6C3, some of the really popular comfortable, successful rim shapes. He then kind of rolled into his own line and modernized them. New backbores, new cups, things like that. Some of the less successful ones, he still had the tooling. Talking about Proviance, so we still make the full line of the Proviance pieces. So someone who wants an RP3 and an RP1, the original model numbers I have to look up every single time. Some of the less popular ones we can still make, and we might sell a handful a year, but they're still made on the original tools. But then the rest, Bob then kind of broadened his line from the 10 or 12 Proviance models based on the needs of the day. So there was a lot of players coming in using Bach mouthpieces. What else was popular? Like Besson and Kahn were popular, olds. Right. But a lot of those were on those old cookie cutter sharp rims.
Yeah.
And you think most of Bob's early customers were the studio guys, big band guys, Buddy Rich, Woody Herman, you name it, Don Ellis coming through town. And they were beating their faces up playing those rims. And so his 40 rim, his 41 rim are all started as kind of a Bach diameter, but then I don't know what you call tempered or a little bit, so that if you're playing 12 hours a day in a studio, playing everything from screaming high notes to orchestral movie scores, it's not going to kill you. And it was different, right? Like Bob didn't need to make a 3C rim because it's already out there.
Yeah.
He'd much rather thread your 3C rim than recreate one, that sort of thing.
Oh, cool. Okay, guys. Okay, I'll ask him. Gosh, I'm getting all these IMs on Facebook. So, what is there's a famous story that you tell me about Bud Brisboy going to Bob and
Mhm.
giving him his mouthpiece, and then Bob makes him a mouthpiece. Bud plays, I think, a double G or something, walks out and does, I think, what the Luck Lady Be a Lady Tonight with Sinatra track or
Yeah, it was Henry Mancini.
Henry Mancini. Yeah.
Henry
So let me
Mancini.
ask this. Like you said, Bob will make what when you get players, that are at the top of the and you were telling me like Doc Severinsen worked a lot with Bob, like a lot.
I have his file right here. I mean,
It's like that thing.
he has his own drawer of alignments and his own drawer of mouthpieces.
So when you get a guy like that and says, "I know what I want," and then you make it for them, and then they come back, and then I mean, at what point do you say, "Okay, we're not going to be I mean, as long as they pay the bill, you're going to keep making mouthpieces for them? I mean, at what point? I mean, because you said that there's times where guys come in and they keep coming in and they want something a little different or a little different, And where's the kind of the okay, we're not,
Yeah, and look, there's a gray area, right?
yeah,
Excuse me, and every customer is different. And look, some players just want to experiment,
yeah,
and Doc is one of those, right?
yeah,
And look, if you have the money to do it and you have the wherewithal to change equipment and see what it does, I mean, it's a great learning tool. I mean, I do that, right? What happens if I do that? I learn more about my playing, changing different rims and different cup depths and things. It makes me more perceptive about what I'm actually feeling in the instrument. So be it, right? So we take every person who comes in the door as a unique individual,
yeah,
and for the most part, we don't want to know what you're doing,
right,
right? We don't want to be prejudiced, right?
yeah.
Well, I'm a community band player. I don't want to know that because no, I'm serious because I want to treat you like Doc Severinsen.
Right.
You know, we're all musicians. Some of us get paid more than others. Some of us tour around the world. Some of us can play triple Z's and double pedals. It doesn't matter. We're all musicians when it comes
Right.
down to it. We're all artists. And some of my favorite customers have never played for another person in their life.
Oh wow.
you know and if I knew that they did that going in, would I treat them different in the advice I give them?
Yeah.
I mean, I would have to honestly say it would be hard not to,
Yeah.
right? And so thankfully in those cases they told me later after we developed a relationship, say, yeah, John, I sit in my Barca lounger at home and put on Chet Baker records and play along. That's all I've ever done in my life. I don't practice. I don't learn changes. I play completely by ear. I've never taken a private lesson in my life. I go home, I pour myself a glass of wine, and I play along with Chet Baker. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, what makes that person any different than a doc
Yeah.
or a session player or something like that?
Right.
They're making music. They love what they do. And, dude, I'm going to help you do that job easier.
Right.
So you have more fun, so you sound more like Chet, or you can play 2 records instead of 1 because your endurance is a little better, right? You want to get that, you get into that second bottle of wine there because it's a Friday night, whatever. And that's the thing. And it's all comes from Bob. I hear it's look in the '60s and '70s, and it's a different time nowadays with Yelp and all this stuff. It's a different game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hear Bob on that, like, don't tell me what you're doing. I don't care. And people, especially young kids, are like, I've never had anybody tell me that. Like, especially an 88-year-old legend mouthpiece maker. And it's not because we don't care what you do. We don't want to be prejudiced because we want to help you do what you're doing better, whatever that may be. Then the discussion evolves into, well, what is your job? Like, I want to sound like Chet Baker. I want to play a few notes higher, or I want my sound to be like this. Okay, then we go from there. And then we have customers that don't want our advice, and that's fine too. They want to come in and they want a 42S bent 12 degrees with their name stamped on it, gold plated, and cut for sleeves with it. Fine. We'll make it. We'll make it. When we hear things that are a little off the wall, like I said with the opening the bore, we will kind of ask a few questions just because we want people. Look, like I said, having someone say, well, this mouthpiece doesn't work, or making this one-off mouthpiece with their name stamp that then appears on eBay 2 weeks later because we can't take it back because we put their name on the thing.
Yeah.
like we don't like seeing that happen.
Yeah.
So there will be times when we do ask follow-up questions, things if
Yeah.
things are totally off the wall. But you know, that's the thing.
Well, and then gosh, I got people. I'm doing IMs and all the. It's funny,
Running the
John.
show, man. This is great. I love this. I might never do a podcast or Q&A again.
So, John, this is from Barry. Barry's in Chicago area. Barry wants to know what has working as a mouthpiece maker done for you as a player.
Yeah, and I've talked a little bit about that. I mean, what I was just mentioning about having a toy box here.
Yeah.
And well, I mean, the caveat of that is the luxury of not taking pro gigs, so I don't have the pressure to ruin my chops or screw myself up because I have to play for money this weekend or anything. Um, well, number one is the alignment. That made my hearing more acute,
Yeah.
right? Once you play on a lined up horn and you hear that evenness, now we call it, you become an alignment snob, and because you hear it, you
Right.
feel it when you're playing a horn, and that actually becomes beneficial because how do you try instruments then? Because most instruments, even though they're brand new, you don't want to hear this, are way out of a line. How do you know it's the alignment? Well, you can kind of tell, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I like the sound and response of this horn. You go through the bugles, and each one plays a little different. Okay, this horn will benefit from an alignment, but it still sounds good already. There you go. You feel more confident making it playing. So that helped me. And then on the mouthpiece side of things, being able to try and feel different resistances made me more perceptive in feeling,
Mm-hmm.
right, during what I'm playing, which I try not to do. I try to just think about the sound, but feeling where the resistance of the horn is very beneficial when you can turn that on and off. Whoa, yeah, yeah. And of course, Bob sitting me down saying, John, you need to learn the acoustics of the instrument. Here's a stack of books, right? And doctoral theses and things like that,
Yeah.
then made me realize, it put a context into what actually is physically going on, both with my lips and my air, but also with the standing wave of the instrument and why things happen the way they do. And then it allows me to analyze better when I'm practicing.
Okay. We have Nick from Corona High School. He says, Bob, I am a high school senior going into college. I need some, I wear down my chops in marching band. I play on a Shoki 14A 4A. How do I know where to start as far as getting a mouthpiece that's going to increase my endurance as a player? Or should I just practice more in the practice room? What would your advice be to me?
Yeah, great question. Well, I mean, first of all, is how much are you practicing? You have to start there because if you're practicing for 20 minutes a day and then you're going out for an hour and a half on the football field, I mean, yeah, you're not going to. One of my favorite calls early on, this is learning how to work with customers, was a guy who said, yeah, when I'm on a gig, I get this tingly sensation about 20 minutes into the gig, and my gig is an hour and a half. What mouthpiece is going to help me? And the first question we asked was, I was young, so I put him on hold, and I went to Bob and told him, Bob, how much is he practicing? I went back and asked, well, sir, how much are you practicing? Well, I practice about 20 minutes every couple of days. And I said, sir, like, I'd love to sell you a mouthpiece, but if you practice 20 minutes a day every couple of days, when you get on a gig that's an hour and a half long, I mean, you don't run a marathon running 1 mile a day every couple of days.
Right.
You can't. You can't. So that would be the first place to start.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're practicing. You're in high school. You're practicing diligently. You might look at the rim. As if they're using the 14A 4A.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fairly efficient mouthpiece, but that's a really flat rim that doesn't work for a lot of players. It works for a lot. I mean, it's a very popular model, but it's a fairly flat rim. So if they're using something else for their classical playing and they're practicing and then they go to that flat rim, that ledge might be cutting in a little bit. And you might look there. It's a fairly efficient mouthpiece.
Mm-hmm.
They might be overblowing it. Maybe practicing it on it a little bit with the focus of backing off. I mean, people tend to play too loud, even on marching band because you don't get the feedback of a wall. So you're putting the sound out there and you're overblowing, and then that blows your chops out and yada, yada, yada. So backing off a little bit may be a thing. Try. It goes back to what I was saying before. You have to try to really you're you're narrowing down variables. Is it practice? Is it the rim? Is it how I'm playing the mouthpiece? That's what you have to look at. And
Yeah,
if you can't determine that stuff yourself, then you find a teacher or come into a shop like ours where we can help.
exactly. And that's how I was going to tell Nick. Just go to Bob Reeves and see what he can do for you. You know, but the practice is a big thing because a lot of people, John, you and I have a mutual friend, and well, no, I'll just say this. I was on the road with a person, and he plays the Reeves too, and and he was playing and he was chipping, right? And he would look at his mouthpiece like this, like, what's going on? What's going on? I'm like, dude, it's you. Okay. You haven't touched your horn in like 48 hours. It's you. You can't, So, but we all, the thing is how, how would you tell someone it's you? I mean,
Well, you
we talked about it, but how would you say it's you?
you
And
don't.
yeah,
You don't. You have them realize it themselves. You know, and
yeah,
that we do that through asking questions.
yeah,
Well, how much you practice? Oh, about 45 minutes. Yeah, I mean, is that 45 minutes straight on the face?
yeah.
How many days a week? And also sound questions like as trying to really dial down what's going on,
Yeah.
right? So in the marching band case, I mean, is it every day? If it's every day, then it's something systemic, right? It's something in their playing that's happening every day. Are they rehearsing too much? Maybe they need to not practice, right? Maybe they're just constantly swollen because they're over practicing, considering they're in marching band, right? And we see that a lot with high school and college kids. And that was one of the problems with me. I mean, I was practicing 4 or 5 hours a day, doing 3 or 4 hours of rehearsals a day, and then going out and playing with my band an hour and a half or 2 hours a night. And I never took a day off. And I was just beat up, and so I got to play swollen. So sometimes rest is the answer, because you burn out or you can't. You're never fresh.
Yeah.
And then that runs. I mean, that astounds me the number of players I've interviewed for the podcast that have run into chop problems in their life because of overdoing it.
Yeah. I hear that too. A lot of them who are on the road with these name bands, they did what they had to do. I mean, Eric Marachio talks about gluing his lip with super glue because he had to play the gig. I mean, I get it. You have to do what you have to do. And a lot of college players, you're on scholarship, you do what you have to do. But I think, there comes a time, John too, I think when we were doing the conversation between you're like, well, what is your pedagogy like, man? What is your, what are some of the things you're doing? So that's an important thing too. John, I got another question. This is a good one. This is a really good one. This is a really good one. I love this one. Do you play? I'm not going to say this is from, okay. Do you play on any other mouthpieces besides a Bob Reeves?
Yes, I do. Okay. As a matter of fact, yes, I do. Okay. Yes, I do. What now? Question is, what is it? And I used to play before we did the classical series.
Yeah.
I practiced on a 3C, and then I used the Reeves for my playing.
Yeah.
Except for when I was playing in a church or something like that, and then I needed the 3C. But most of my playing was big band and Latin and commercials type stuff. So I used Reeves pieces and then practiced on the 3C. Then when we released the classical series, then I loved that. So I put my 3C on the shelf and started using the classical series. My piccolo mouthpiece is a New York 11C cornet Bach.
Wow.
And it just works.
Yeah.
It just works. I got it from Noah Gladstone. My buddy, we do the trombone mouthpieces together, and this was all before. This is when I was in college, and I remember meeting him, and he had a case of incredible one-off Bach mouthpieces, and the guy's amazing, right?
Yeah.
And he got me. He's like, "You might want to try this 11C cornet." No, I've had some guys play it down at. He went to USC, and they really like it. They were going to offer me a lot of money for it. I was like, oh my gosh, you're a good salesman. You haven't even opened up a shop yet, and you already got me hooked. And by golly, put that in my piccolo, and
Yeah.
like it made the piccolo fun, which for me is not my favorite instrument, and it makes me sound somewhat like a piccolo player. And I suppose we could copy it here at some point, but that's one of those things. Why? Like it
Why?
works. It works.
Yeah. So, okay, I'll just say that. Rick, are you happy? I asked him. Okay, are you happy? I asked him. And he's like, just ask him. Just ask him. So, actually,
And also, in the follow up on that, and honestly,
yeah,
our piccolo mouthpieces work great
yeah,
for a lot of players. They didn't work for me.
yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. Bob's not. You don't have to play. There's none of that. And I even blind tested with him. We do that a lot here.
Yeah.
You know, we do blind testing and things like that. So whenever I'm trying, Brett and myself and Bob, when we're either experimenting or developing new things, but when the first thing I do if I'm trying a new piece of equipment is I blind test with Bob and Brett.
Yeah.
Because it takes myself out of it, and they'll be honest with me, and they chose the 11C every time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another. Gosh, these are some good questions. These are some good questions. Okay. You see thousands of horns a year.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a horn where you can't do an alignment, or it's just too ridiculous? You're like, this. Why are we doing an alignment on this type of horn?
Rarely.
Rarely.
I mean, if it's got a piston, we will figure out how to align it. There's going to be a way. There's been a few, believe it or not, there's been a few plastic trumpets that people have asked us to align.
Why?
And
okay.
And this is one of those things where we say the same thing.
Yeah.
We say the exact same thing. Why? And just logistically, the way they're designed, either we can't cut the plastic, or some of them have these like weird, like the parts don't actually screw together. You kind of press them down and they kind of lock into place, which, I mean, there's just no way to adjust that with any sort of reliability. So we say no. I mean, we've had people buy $50 instruments on eBay that are imported that they'll then come up and spend $200 on alignment, and we say why? It's not built well enough.
Yeah.
I mean, theoretically, if you did get the valves in the right place, it would play better, but a $50 instrument with a $200 alignment doesn't play like a $250 Olds Ambassador or something, right? Like it's just not, and the soldering will fall apart in 2 weeks, right? We've still had people insist, like we have them sign a waiver. I mean, that's the legal side of me, and say, look. I mean, I've had those horns fall apart in my hands as I'm doing the horn, so that's part of it. I have to say, we say don't do it. If you want to pay the $200, you're signing off that the thing falls apart in my hands, or if it falls apart 2 weeks after you get it aligned, we're not, because that's what can happen. That's why the horn's $50.
Yeah.
So we've seen just about anything. Besides those weird instances, some of the like really antique, I don't want to say vintage, but like antique, 1860s, 1880s, early cornets. It's a similar kind of thing. The manufacturing wasn't good enough that getting the valves in the right place is going to make it that much, because the thing's leaking like a sieve, and the valve holes aren't even nearly in the right place.
Right.
But I mean, probably the funnest horn I did sitting around here somewhere is my King Liberty. It took me a day to do. That's the mini trumpet, because the parts were so small and the way it was designed, like it took me all day to do, but I did it. I figured out a way, and it's a challenge. You do 1,000 Yamahas. It's fun to do something that makes you stretch a little bit.
Well, and I'll tell everybody out there, I have a 1926 box Strat, and I took it to John, and John was very honest with me. He goes, look, do you want me to do this? I mean, and that's one thing I really love about you guys, is that you're like, look, it's not really going to make much of a difference, at this point in the game. It's almost 100 years old.
Well, I mean, those horns are made pretty well, and I think if I remember correctly with yours too, is you weren't sure if you were going to keep it either, or if you want to keep it for the collectability, and that's the other thing. Yeah. And that's another fine line where it's like, well, if you get a valve alignment because you're playing the horn,
right,
because it's making it play better. It's not going to raise the value of the horn. It may make it easier to sell because people know, oh man, this is a player. It's been aligned, but you're adjusting a horn that you're trying to preserve. We don't go in there with a hacksaw, obviously, but but realistically, if you have that old of a Bach and you want to preserve the value of it, one, you shouldn't be playing it
no,
because it's like driving a car. You want 1,000 miles on the thing, not 50,000.
right,
So that's where you have to make the decision. If it's going to be a player for you, then who cares how old it is and how much it's worth because you're using it as a tool. So make it play as good.
right.
And it's tricky because we get Martin committees and you name it, and that's the thing. You wouldn't send it to us unless it was a player.
Right.
If you want to sell it on eBay in 5 years, keep it wrapped up. Don't touch it. Don't have anything don't do anything to it. So sometimes we have to have that conversation.
Right. And that's, like I said, that was great that you guys are like, do you want us to do this? And I'm like, yeah. So I got the questions are still coming in.
That's fine. Hey, I'm having fun. I'm having
I
fun.
apologize. I'm not trying to take up too much of your time, buddy. And I mean, it's already 3:30, and I apologize, guys.
It's internet time, man.
So I'll just do two more.
Okay.
And the guys, and here's the thing: you can always ask John questions on the website. You can go on the website. You can click a message, and somebody from Bob Reeves. Sometimes it's John. Sometimes it's not. If you ask a question, they will help you.
Yeah, Facebook, Twitter. This is the dirty little secret. 99% of the communications are me. The only time, and especially now after COVID, we were closed for 2 months, and so now we're really careful. Like how we're doing things. So there's the 3 guys in the back, and I'm doing most of the stuff in the front right now. So email comes directly to me, even though it's info. It sounds very impersonal, but it comes to me. Twitter messages, Facebook direct messages through the shop, Instagram messages all come to me, and chances are within 24 hours I'll reply, even on the weekends.
So here's John. I'm looking at my comments here. Brandon, who's a big fan apparently now, says, would he be willing to do another webinar, a two-parter?
Two-parter. Woo.
Yeah.
Woo. Is there anything else left to talk about? Of course, man. I'm happy to do this. This is fun.
Okay, I'll ask you 2 more questions, and then we'll call it a day.
I won't hold you to that, but that's fine.
Okay, this comes from Jack, my buddy Jack in New York City. He's a great cat. He says, John, I've noticed that the Bob Reeves from the 70s aren't the same as the Bob Reeves made now. Would you recommend, if you wanted a vintage Bob Reeves, would you recommend finding one on the internet or actually going to Bob and say, hey, can you make me a remake or a copy?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the thing is, we have to know why it's not the same, because the tooling is exactly the same. Yeah. So we have a vault of masters. Yeah. And so we can tell when our tools wear. And I suggest we have a YouTube channel that we have a few videos. All the Q&As are posted there, which is a great resource. There's a few of our manufacturing videos. There's an intro one that kind of starts to get into how we make our stuff. Yeah. And so the way we make all of our mouthpieces are using form tools. Okay. It's like a cookie cutter. And I could describe it all day. Yeah. Go watch the video. Go to our website, and you can see some of them on the website. It's a cookie cutter. Yeah. It's going to get from down in the throat all the way out to the outside diameter of the rim. So rim, cup, throat is all exactly the same. Okay. Thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of times before the tool wears. And like I said, we have the vault of original masters from the 70s to know how the tool was cutting 50 years ago, right? And we can tell. We can make one with a tool. We can measure it and say, this is still within 1/1000th of an inch of the mouthpiece we made 50 years ago. So in terms of vintage mouthpieces, it's not like other manufacturers where they changed how they made things, right? Bach used to use form tools, and then they switched to that. And then they changed the tools, and then they moved the factory. Then they went to all CNC. Then they moved to CNC single pointing. You're never going to get the same mouthpiece because they changed how they made them. That being said, it's impossible to make 2 mouthpieces exactly alike. Okay. So
Cool.
is his mouthpiece different than how we're making now? We need to see it. It's possible we drank too much coffee that day in the 70s when we polished it. It may be that Bob made something that's not stamped on it. It was the Wild West back then.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
we,
I'll
we
ask him.
we didn't really standardize our cup shapes and rims and backbores and stuff as a stock line for years. Because Bob didn't he couldn't imagine eBay.
Yeah.
He's solving the guy's problem that day.
Yeah.
So maybe he grabbed a 42S off the shelf and said, "Oh, this guy needs a little more room," and did a little handwork in the cup.
Yeah.
And it's out there. And yes, that'll be different than our 42S. We've had people that have a magic mouthpiece, they mail it to us, we measure it for free, and we can make them, if it's a stock size,
Yeah.
something as darn close as humanly possible or computerly possible as well
Right.
for a stock price, assuming it's with our stock tools. But then a lot of times during that analysis, we find out, oh, the bore was opened at some point, or someone shaved down the end. What's the formula? The more years that have passed with a mouthpiece in a trumpet player's hand, it's exponentially more likely that something's been altered along the way.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And then they don't remember that, that gig in 1979 when, they sat with sandpaper. And then, oh, that's right, I did do that. Yeah, well, I barely remember that. Well, yeah, okay, so get something with a 5 shank instead of a 4 shank and should play a lot closer.
Cool.
But we're
Awesome.
happy to analyze. Like, we have
Yeah.
no ego in this. Yeah, if you bought a new 42S and it plays different than yours from 40 years ago, send it to us. We'll tell you why, and we'll make something as close as possible.
Awesome. Okay. This is from Jeanette. Okay. Jeanette lives in Oregon. And
Hey, Jeanette.
she wants to know, John, let me make sure I read this right. Okay. She says, John, would you recommend trying 3 different 42Ms or 43Ss? Would you recommend trying 3 of the same kind of mouthpieces when choosing a mouthpiece?
No. And here's why. First of all, we don't have those.
Okay.
Like, we make the things, and we don't have 343Ms on the shelf. With other manufacturers, and this is not a slam to other manufacturers. Like I said, no one can make 2 mouthpieces the same.
Right.
If we made 2 43Ms here and gave them to you, would they play a little bit different? Our goal is that you wouldn't be able to perceive it.
Okay.
They may be slightly different in some place, but our goal is to manufacture each step of the process that, like, our line, our threshold of quality, our quality control is we're beyond human perception. So you might be able to measure a slight difference, which then means that they're not exactly the same, but when you play them back to back, would you be able to perceive that difference either in the feel and the sound? So it's really not worth playing 343Ms.
Okay.
Especially the ones the way we make them today. And that goes back to Bob's original concept of what we're always improving. So Bob started in this business as an incredible machinist, sending, gyroscope parts that are on rockets that are going to the moon and applying that to how he's making a trumpet mouthpiece. I'll tell you, those quality control concepts go, when we're doing things right, way beyond human perception.
Okay.
In terms of the playing of the thing. Now, if you played a mass-produced mouthpiece, yeah, try 10 of them.
Yeah.
Because you can't on a CNC. Well, I never say you can't. Yeah. There's some manufacturers that are getting pretty close with CNC manufacturing,
right?
But they're also $200 mouthpieces. If you're buying a $50 mouthpiece, a $70 mouthpiece, the reason why those are that price is because they're mass produced and they can't put the quality control in place because it's just too expensive to sell at that price point. At that case, yes, you'd need to try 3. You need to try 10 because one of those 10 will be the best out of the 10, and you're getting the most out of your $50, right? Okay. And then good luck trying to find another one. That's they get you on the back end, and that's why Bob ended up making the classical series because he was sick of having to charge people $400 to copy a 1.5C.
Yeah.
He was it's expensive for the customer. It's a lot of work. We lose money on our custom mouthpieces.
Yeah.
$450, the shop loses money. It's hard to believe, but it's true. The economics of taking a half a day to a day to make one mouthpiece, it's not worth it for us. We'll do it because that's a service and it meets a need, but we got sick of copying 3Cs and 1.5Cs because no one could find one that played like their Magic one. So we finally bit the bullet and said, we're making our own 3C, you know? So yeah, so that's the short answer. And that's also, that goes back to clocking too, people.
Yeah.
That's not, you didn't ask that question, but the clocking of the mouthpiece,
Right.
that's a thing when your mouthpiece isn't concentric. If it's
Oh,
not made concentric, yeah, you need to
yeah.
clock it because the rim's a different thickness and the center of the piece is doing all kinds of funky things as you're rotating it in the horn. With a Reeves mouthpiece, they're dialed in center. You can clock it all you want and pretend like it's doing something. And that's fine. That's fine too.
Whatever works, right?
Yeah, you do you, man. If it works and helps you to play better, go for it.
Well, John, I want to thank you so much for your time. I mean, this has been so informative. I mean, we could talk for like till 2021 about this stuff.
Oh man, I'm just kidding. I still have half my coffee. You wonder how I can talk so much.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
you've seen, if you're on our social media, you know the espresso maker we have here. So it's
Yeah.
like, you know, that's my best piece of advice. Get an espresso maker and you'll double productivity.
and I've learned a lot, and I hope
I hope
everyone
so.
on the internet have learned a lot. And John, will you be willing to come back?
Of course. Man,
Oh,
I have nothing but time.
well,
That's why I have a great crew, you know, like
Yeah.
I'm so thankful because I mean, we're small, but we can do a lot here.
Yeah.
I mean, based on the principles that Bob set up and the training, you know,
Yeah.
I have 3 guys in the shop. You know, Brett runs the thing. Like he tells me to get off machines. You know, that's
Oh,
the
huh.
thing. Like he's the guy. He's running the shop. He's running production. I mostly do the alignments, and then if we're really slammed, Brett kind of shakes his hand and says, "John, I need you to back bores."
Oh, well, there you go.
you know,
Yeah.
so I mean, he's the guy running the show in the back, and like we couldn't do it if it wasn't set up properly, and that
Yeah.
Bob trained us well. he it's not just the machining, it's the how do you work with customers, what do you listen for, and we still do it. I mean, Bob will still come in and check my numbers on alignment, and I've been doing it.
Yeah.
I've done 12,000 horns, and he'll still, and Brett will check me and I'll check Brett, and that's how we're set up here, and I'm very thankful, and that allows me to do things like the podcast and the Q&A and stuff, so happy to do it.
Well, we're honored to have you, and thank you so much.
Yeah.
Guys, if you again go to it's at bobreevesmouthpieces.com.
BobReeves.com is the website.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
that'll get you everywhere. We're really active nowadays on Facebook, doing the live Q&As as a follow up to the podcast. I mean, it's great for me, and it's like you're doing. It's busy, right? You're sitting
Yeah.
there running the show,
Yeah.
but it's great because then I don't have to ask the questions that I forget to ask during the podcast. It's a great way that the listeners and viewers can ask questions.
Yeah.
We're doing some video stuff on YouTube. I mean, we're trying to do the thing.
Yeah. And again, guys, thank you so much for joining us. All of you on Facebook, all of you who joined the meeting. And again, just reach out to John. He'll answer your questions, and he's a great guy and super funny too. He has stories for days.
Oh.
and
Oh, man.
and again, can you tell your dad thank you for the shirt? Because that was the only 3X they had. I was like, thank you. So, but again, thank you so much, John, and we will look forward to having you on a future webinar. And again, just visit them on Facebook, on Instagram, and give John a call. And guys, I hope everyone has a safe and healthy or happy weekend. I know it's crazy out there, but for the little bit of time we can sit here and forget about that stuff and talk trumpet. So thanks,
safe.
John.
Oh, pleasure's all mine. Be included with your esteemed guests, like I said, that you've had already and coming up. So, man, what an honor. Thank you. I hope you're safe and healthy, brother.
All right, guys, you have a great day, and we'll talk to all of you soon.